All right, we are live for the 8th session. I don't know if it's the 8th or 9th session for the working group for merge request report widgets. So thanks everyone for joining us today. We have quite the agenda, so let's jump right in. First point, we have Gina. Gina is not on the call. So I kick it to 10. Yes, Tim. Gina said that she has transferred some defects that she found. She's transformed that into issues and attached to the epic for the remaining updates that have not yet been met. Should we be seeing all of the merge changes in prod yet? So Phil, do you want to address it?
So I fixed some things. I'm pretty sure I fixed them all. And then the millions of conflicts that I've had to solve, I'm pretty sure I've solved some of them incorrectly, which has reverted some of the changes, the bugs that have been found. Like, it's fine. I've got one of them fixed now. I'll have to do a fix soon.
Okay. And when Gina asks production, it's the production code that's running only for that project that we have for testing, I'm guessing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's addressed. Yeah, it helps. So Gina, if you're watching this, it does help creating the issues and attaching to the epic. So that's very well done. Thanks. And then Gina asks, do we have any updates on upcoming widget work for the next milestones? And Scott, you have something?
Yeah, currently all the testing issues are scheduled in backlog because they've been blocked waiting for core component features. I just went through and looked through the statuses of those issues. But what is the status on the following features? So first, ability to categorize items in the list, like new, removed. Is that still being worked on, or is that already done?
But it's not been done. I don't know when the plan is to get it done.
Okay. No worries. Not in a rush. I was just curious if it had been done and it was just we didn't know.
So Scott, I have a question here. Is this something that is part of the UX framework, but it's not implemented yet? Or is it something that we uncover that it's not covered by the UX framework?
No, I think it's in the UX framework, I believe.
Okay. So we might be missing an issue or something. So when we did the initial split up of the issues, we knew we were bound to something escape us. So what I would ask is for someone comfortable with the problem or that area to open it up an issue and attach it to the epic so that we can then track it and schedule it. Probably for 14.6 would be something that we could work on. Or if somebody wants to work on right away and adding that support, Phil can totally lead that and support that. And I think the same goes for the other topics, but can go there. Is that something you can find someone to do?
Yeah.
Open an issue? Okay. I'm going to touch that in, touch it to the epic. Because that makes everything easier for us to keep looking at the same place and just see them pop up. So just like Gina is putting in the defects, it just goes into the pipeline. Polling. Do you want to talk a bit about polling?
Yeah, there was a Slack conversation about whether we could do polling technically on the widget using the core component, or if the core component is going to be handling it. I think there was some confusion on how the widget itself would do it, but maybe Phil can explain better.
So technically, the core component doesn't handle the data fetching. It would be up to the actual extension itself. Now, technically, it will be possible to poll in the way it's currently done. Just there's no examples of how it would be done, or if it's the right way we should do it. So I guess it's on me to try and put an example together.
All right, and maybe, I mean, I can also try to see if I can get like a something sample working.
I have a question on that though. So if you do it outside of the core component and each widget handles the data loading, great. You have a lot of flexibility to handle your APIs, to wrangle them in whatever way you need it. My question is, would it be better and more consistent if we let the core component do that? Or would we have to, set up a whole bunch of standard API formats or something, or would that be worse? That's my question. Because we have consistency, but it would be more restrictive.
I guess the thing is, where does the data come from? Because there could be like several different ways. There could be a GraphQL endpoint, there could be a normal API, and there could be polling. So the core component would have to handle all three. Now, could that get a bit messy? I don't know.
Is there any way for? Sorry, do you remember the smart interval component we have on the merge requests to do the polling? Well, one, hopefully with time, we will drop the polling and we'll have WebSockets in real time shortly in the near future. But if the core component was just responsible for triggering I don't know, just a promise or a function that will get passed to the core component, like the code that would run at each step of the polling would be given by the external widget, but the controller would be done by the core component. Does that make sense at all, or is it just like more complex? I'm thinking, here's what I'm thinking. If we want to add logic to pause when the visibility leaves the page, like we did on the merge requests, it would be much easier to do consistently on the core component to just stop triggering those calls instead of having everyone, hey, now please update your code to check the visibility API of the page. So if they could just have, when they're initializing the widget passes the step of the, not recursion, but the step of the polling, and the core component would trigger it, that could give us some control over that. No?
Yep. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, right. Okay. So we need an issue.
I guess we need to rethink how the data fetch and handle. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We need an issue for this, Scott. So I'll probably ask either Peyton or someone to draft up an issue for the polling, or we can just create an empty one and we can start discussing there to make it more permanent. And I'll try to go in there and join the conversation. But yeah, right now there's nothing palpable, but we can totally start preparing it.
Oh yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Will you take an action to create the issue?
Yeah.
Right. Thanks. Nested levels. Insights, thoughts? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I guess this is like, I can just check the epic to see if there's what exactly I need. It's just for the test report summary. It just has like multiple levels of you expand the report and then of the content inside.
So I think that will be covered by the content sections level 3. Let me just share the screen. So this is the add support for content sections level 3, and I think this would be it, level 3, that section, and then the expansion and everything will be done by the other actions for level 1 and actions level 2, which will have the expansions and stuff. So I'm guessing part of the sub levels that you're talking about, of the nested levels, might be handled by these issues. So yeah, take a look at those and see if they cover that, what you need. If not, open an issue and attach it to the epic.
It looks like it will be.
Cool. Hi, Gina. I noticed you joined. We already covered your point. Thanks for doing the defect and adding to the issues to the epic.
Sorry, I was late.
No worries. You did add the agenda, so we kind of discussed it. Thanks. So we're still on your point about updates for the upcoming widget, and my point is up. So I just wanted to give a heads up about the work that we've picked up for code review for this milestone for 14.5. One of them is the defect that Gina created about the subtext, and the others is just continuing adding the support for the UX framework to the core component. And the last one, it's important because it's the telemetry one, where we'll be trying to add some functionality to the core component to support telemetry on the apps, on the widgets. Yeah, any questions on that before we move on? Cool, which takes me to the next point, which is also about telemetry. So the code review UX designer, Annabelle, she did a great job at giving a bit of an overview about what the wealth of knowledge, wealth of events and instances and calls to action we would like to add telemetry to. And a lot of these cover multiple widgets. So maybe I can share my screen as well to get it into the recording. And oh, we have a guest appearance. Hi. So as you can see, in bold, you have the widget, and then in parentheses, you have the call to action. So it's like the accessibility, the approvers, branches, browser performance, merge, merge within when it's after the merge and everything. So some of these, as you can see, are for widgets that are covered by this working group. We opened up basically issues for each one of the groups. So basically we gathered, for example, in the merge one, we have all the calls to action that was identified on that table. And if you look at it, some of these, like the browser performance, the load performance, please ignore that they're assigned. We're kind of like reassigning them at the moment, but some of these are covered by the working group widgets, right? So what I wanted to give a heads up to people is this is something that we think would be most appropriate for the groups to handle because they know better how the widgets are built and how they were written for this particular iteration of the new one. So we will be adding functionality to the core component for the telemetry, but we still need the widgets to use that core functionality. And we expect to collaborate a little bit to get to the bottom of how we should build that support, okay? Now, the call to action here there's a bunch of issues in that epic, as you can see, that cover group widgets and not the core widgets. So that's it. Just feel free to jump in there and pick them up as you go. The one detail I would like to call attention is one of the things we have discussed is so for example, to add telemetry to the browser performance, now we have a question. If we add it only to the new widget, then we'll only start gathering data when we roll out the main feature flag. Because from what I understood, we have one feature flag to rule them all, right? So we have to wait for all widgets to be ready to be rolled out before we even start gathering telemetry. And that's unfortunate because telemetry takes time to roll out properly to customers and everything. So the suggested approach would be when we add telemetry to the browser performance widget, we would add to both the legacy and the new, which is duplicated work, but the earlier we start gathering, the better. So that's kind of like a caveat for the engineers who pick up this work, but we're willing to discuss. Maybe we can start discussing rolling out the widgets one by one if we'd like. I expect there to be some instability if we are adding core functionality. If we're adding functionality to the core component, we might break things. So I'm not feeling very comfortable about that. So yeah, we might have to go bite the bullet and just use those two approaches, built for the legacy and the new. So I want to hear your thoughts. If anybody wants to take anything, feel free to ping us and we can help out filling in the gaps. Questions, thoughts? So Scott, do you think that anyone would be willing to pick up the telemetry work or is this an afterthought for everyone?
No, I think it'd be simple to pick up. I mean, depending on how it interacts with the core component, it sounds like, I think we discussed basically just passing in the event, right?
The names or something. And then the YAMLs, right? That fill.
Yeah, well, they have to create so is this, there's a few ways we track events, right? Is this like usage data? Or
yeah,
it's usage data. Okay, yeah, my team has a lot of experience with creating those usage data YAML files and stuff. So it shouldn't be too bad.
Okay, so just for clarity, we will not in the code review group, we will not look at those issues that are for specific widgets. We'll let you handle that and burn that down. We'll be supportive and collaborate when we need, but that sounds like a good first approach to start burning those down in that sense.
Okay, and the telemetry for the core component is
scheduled for this milestone.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and Phil, I do expect you to reach out to Peyton and other folks that already have their hands dirty in these widgets. So please collaborate and try to find a good approach for them as well. Cool. Right, I think we can move on. Marcel. Oh, any additional points?
I think
Marcel.
I don't have anything myself. I think my point was pretty much covered in what Scott and Phil already discussed, unless anybody has any points to add to that one. Doesn't seem like it.
I think we have if we have an issue, we can start making it more concrete and discuss the thing we talked about here as well. Thanks for bringing it up, though. Very useful. I don't think we have anything else on the agenda. Any last minute points?
Did we want to discuss the telemetry for legacy and new widgets question?
Yeah, do you have thoughts on that? So yeah.
I mean, I can see the point. Is there like a rush to get like the telemetry data for the old widgets?
So for what I got from the PM is that once we roll out the telemetry, we're seeing like a slow uptake as it takes a couple of milestones of months to actually start getting a good coverage of those changes rolled out to customers. Because I feel this telemetry will go to customers, right? We'll catch the self-hosted instances as well.
Yeah.
Right. So the conscious we've learned is that if we roll out something on 14.5, it might take multiple months until customers start updating for 14.5, right? So the earlier we ship the telemetry changes, the better. Now, part of me kind of wants to have I can't believe I'm saying this in the recording, a Trojan horse that would just call home and check what code should I need to run. But security would never let us do that. We would never do that. So we need to just stagger the rollout of this, or just be aware of the staggered rollout that this will have and take time to get to customers. So that's where the rush comes from, is we need to learn more about this data so that we can make more informed changes and updates and everything. Because we're flying blind on most of these areas in terms of usability and interaction. And this will be useful for your groups as well. So getting to know how people are using this widget. So for example, we'll be able to tell the expansions of those areas, and we'll be able to see how often do people interact with these. And that will lead for better UX. So the earlier we roll out telemetry, the better we can start making more informed decisions. That's where the rush is coming from. And my take is that probably we just need to, so the YAML and all that stuff should probably be the same wiring for both the legacy and the new one. We just have to set up the handlers yourself on the old code, where the new one, you probably leverage the parameters we build on the core component. But for the legacy, you have to go to your code and just add the handlers to the right points, which is a bummer, but I haven't done the changes. So that might be, take that with a grain of salt. Does that make any sense, Phil?
I believe
They're okay,
testing has telemetry, has usage data being triggered on the current legacy MR widgets. Maybe not all of them, but at least a few of them.
Okay.
At least the ones that we care about, so that we know people are using that affect our performance indicators.
Okay. Maybe they're redundant. Bear in mind that we did no assessment whether these already existed. So we just we did a mapping, we saw what we wanted to track, and we created the issues. But yes, there might be already an overlap with the ones being tracked. And that's a matter of the engineer looking at, is it done already? Like, do we need to add more or not?
Okay. Yeah.
The new ones is what I'm worried about. The new ones should definitely take the telemetry added as early as possible, just to make sure that once we roll them out, we already have it covered. But yeah, for the legacy, I'll defer to your teams to figure that out, I guess. We in code review, we'll start looking at the merge ones, which is the ones we take control over. The merge, the post-merge, all of those, the code review will probably start. That's what I was talking about, reassigning those, because we're going to relinquish control of that. And I'm going to move the one that I assigned to Phil over to something for code review.
Okay, so we'll just discuss with our own teams PMs to decide whether we want to add the metrics, the telemetry to the old legacy. Okay, yeah, that works.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Scott. Any further points? No, I think we did. I think we covered it all. Then I'll let you go. 8 minutes back. Thank you so much for attending the call, and I'll see you next week. Have a great week, everyone.